Hey y'all, I am excited because today is the day that I am filming one of my favorite videos to film and also some of my favorite type of videos to watch on YouTube, and that is going to be our most anticipated releases. In this video, we're talking about most anticipated releases for July and August of 2024. All right, y'all, so I have my spreadsheet in front of me that I use to track all of my anticipated releases on. Pretty much as soon as I see something coming out, I mean, I have this even through into next year, but as soon as I see a book coming out that I am gonna wanna get my hands on, I add it to my anticipated releases spreadsheet, and I have been tracking this and keeping this for months and months now. So, in this episode, July and August, I have several books for July, and I only have 3 books for August. But we'll see. I got lots of books coming up for July, and I'm really excited to get into this.
Hey guys, it is time for our most anticipated. Today we're doing July and August, so the crux of the summer is upon us, and boy does it feel hot outside to remind me. There's some kind of heat bubble over this side of the US this week, and it's going to be in the 90s all week. So that's something to look forward to. Not only do I have a fair amount to go over today, I think it's pretty much the same. I usually have like in the 20s the amount of books that I usually go over for our most anticipated. But today I feel like I have more arcs than I have in the past because I have opened up myself to the electronic arc for Edelweiss. And I haven't even included NetGalley yet, and I know Amanda is a big fan of NetGalley as well. I think she might like Edelweiss more, but I have a couple of friends that really talk up NetGalley too. For now, I'm just gonna do Edelweiss one thing at a time. I do have, of the 26, I have 5 physical arcs that I'm excited about, and 8 more digital arcs. So I have half of what I want to go over in arcs, and I have entered contests for the rest of them. So I do feel I have gotten a little obsessive about the new books coming out, and I haven't been reading as much of the books that are already on my TBR, unfortunately. But next month we do have a TBR jar pick to help keep us reading those that are already on our TBR. There's just too many books that are coming out. I mean, there's so many that look good. It's crazy. I get kind of obsessive when it comes to, especially authors that I've read and loved. To kick it off, July 2nd is the first one, and it's The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. This one I don't have an arc for. And it seems like it's in the vein of Sophie Cousins. And if you've been watching our channel or our videos, you know that I've been talking up Sophie Cousins. I've read all of her books. She does have one coming out in the fall, and I don't have an e-arc yet for that one. It comes out, I want to say, October. And I'm very much looking forward to that one, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That's not even in July and August. So The Love of My Afterlife is about a recently deceased woman, and she meets the one in the afterlife waiting room. I don't even know what that means. This seems like it's in either like a fictional or romance genre, and I do like to switch things up. I do feel I am doing a lot of thrillers and horror recently. So I'm very much trying to like pick things from other genres to mix it up. Sometimes after I read a lot of thrillers and horror, it just seems to be too much. It starts to weigh me down. But both she and the one get a chance to go back to their life. And I don't know what that exactly means, why they get to go back. And she's determined to find the person that she met in the waiting room back in, it sounds like it's in New York, because it says that how can she find the one in the city of millions after she gets another chance with her life. So that one sounded really cute and something that would lighten the mood of all the thrillers that I've been reading.
All right, so the first book coming out on July 2nd is called The Haters by Robin Harding. And this kind of drew my attention because it's obviously a thriller book, and y'all know that we love thrillers on this channel. I've never read Robin Harding before, so it's going to be a new author to me. And this book is about a struggling author who finally gets a break. She produces a book, it gets lots of reviews and becomes pretty big. And then all of a sudden she gets a message from an anonymous sender, and it's a scathing, mad message that puts accusations on her about her book. And she tries to blow it off, but then she finds like some 1-star reviews of her book where this that is also kind of like just very angry, very upset. And it starts to take a toll on her popularity of her book. She's getting lots of hate, you know, spreading online about her. And she's trying to make it her mission to find out who are behind these messages, if it's the same person, if it's different people, why they're doing it, why they're attacking her. So I don't know. This premise sounded interesting to me. There's been a couple of books coming out about writers and disgruntled readers. I haven't read any of them yet, but that premise still seems interesting to me, and I thought I would give this book a try. New author, interesting premise, so I kind of want to see where this one goes.
I have another one on July 2nd. This one also I don't have an arc for. It's got The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. So a teenager vanishes from the Adirondack summer camp in August of 1975. She's 13 years old and daughter of the owner of the camp. Her older brother vanished 14 years before that and was never found, and it's at the same place. And one of my friends had read this at work, and I think they must have an arc of it, so maybe I'll get a chance to borrow it. Just based on the conversation with him about it, it really sounded good, so I put it on my TBR, of course.
The second book in July I want to talk about is called Reckless by Lauren Roberts. It's coming out on July 2nd. And I really was not impressed by Powerless. I thought that it was basically Hunger Games. I made that very clear in my review of the book when I did a wrap-up video that I featured the book in. But I know the book's extremely popular. I did find the writing very good. And I feel like now the story is going to veer away from Hunger Games storyline. So I'm really hoping that the second book is something very different. I hope it's not a copycat of another dystopian or fantasy book like she did with Hunger Games. But I don't know. I'm holding my reservations for it just because I wasn't impressed with the first one. But I do want to give the second book a chance because, like I said, it's probably going to go in a totally different direction. And I did find her writing very good. In this second book, Peyton has killed the king and she's on the run. Kit is going to be the new king, and Kai, who is faithful to Kit, is chasing her down. So we'll see where this goes. I'm holding my reservations. I'm gonna go into it with an open mind and give her another chance because I don't see how this can still copy Hunger Games. It's going a completely different direction, and I want to read it. I want to give it a shot. The next book and last book for July 2nd, that's on my radar, is called The Night Ends With Fire by KX Song. I love fantasy, y'all, and this book sounded so interesting to me. I was able to get approved for an ARC copy of the book. I have not had time to read it yet, but it is so high up there on my TBR. I want to read this so badly in the next couple of weeks before it comes out on July 2nd. But this book sounds so interesting. You're following Milan. I think that's how you say her name, and I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but you're following Milan, and her father gets drafted for the army, and he has an opium addiction, and he seems like not a very good person, and he decides to go on the run and to sell his daughter for money. So he tries to sell Milan to this man, but she finds out that the man she's been sold to is also very abusive, might have some kind of addiction problems, is just a terrible person, and she realizes that in order to escape this life, she has to get out and make her own way. So what she decides to do is go on the run and enlist in the army as her father. So she answers the draft in her father's place. And goes into the army and disguises herself as a boy. So I'm really curious to see where this goes. I know that there are 3 kingdoms that are fighting, and she's obviously going into the army to fight for one of those kingdoms. And that's all I know. I haven't read too much into it, but I really want to see where this goes. I feel like this could be a very strong, very beautiful novel. I don't think it is a series. I think this is a standalone. And also it's going to have sprayed edges, and it's a very pretty cover. So I want to read the arc, and if I really enjoy the arc, then I'm going to go out and purchase the special first release edition of this book so that I have it. So I'm really crossing my fingers and hoping this is good. It sounds like a good
The next
story.
one I'm super excited about, and I actually started reading it just to see what it was like. And it's called All This and More by Pang Shepherd, and it's the physical arc. And what is really interesting about it, it was called an inventive new novel, though it's a premise or a device that a lot of you will know as the choose your own adventure books from when you were a child, because those have been around for many, many years. And I did read some of those when I was, between 9 and 12. And this one is the same way, where you're following this woman and you get to decide in choices that come up in her life, you get to decide between 2 different paths that lead from wherever she is in terms of how the story is gonna go. So if you choose one, it'll go to page whatever. If you choose the other, you just keep going in the story. And it seems like a very interesting adult version of Choose Your Own Adventure. And I really wanted to see what this one is about. It felt very interesting, very different. So I'm very excited about this one. I'm definitely going to be reading this, and it comes out July 9th.
The next book on my list comes out July 9th, and that's called Bad Tourist by Caro Carver. And this is an author, again, that I have not read. I have seen a couple of their books floating around here and there, but I haven't picked them up yet. And it is a thriller book. And in this book, you're following 3 women. I'm not sure if all 3 of them have gone through a divorce or just one of them, but one of them or a couple of them or all of them have gone through a divorce, and they decide that they want to go on this trip to the Maldives to relax, get away from everything, de-stress from the stresses of divorce, and just have a good fun girls trip. But there's one problem, is that this resort that they're staying in is harboring a killer. So that's all I know about the book. It's not very much, I know, but I love to go on my books blind. I don't want to know anymore. It just sounded so interesting to me. I feel like these ladies' stories might be very interesting since they're like midlife, gone through a divorce. I'm curious to know, how they know each other. What are they really good friends like they say they are? What's in their past, like why the divorces. There's just so many things that could go into all the mysteries of their situation. And then they're at this beautiful resort, and there's a killer there. And can you imagine being stuck on like an island resort and there's a killer in your midst, but you might not know who it is? That would be really scary. So I'm really excited to get into this book. I can't wait for it to come out and see where this goes. I just feel like there are so many good possibilities with this book, and I hope that I'm not disappointed. The next book coming out July 9th is a book I've already read. It's called The Darkness Within Us by Trisha Levenseller. I got my hands on an art copy of this book. It is the second book of the Shadows Between Us series. And I'm not going to say much about this book because I have filmed a full and posted. I filmed and posted a full ARC review vlog on this book. So I will link it up here. And if you want, I'll also link it in the description below. If you want to go check it out and learn more about this book and my thoughts on it, then please go check out my ARC review. The next book coming out on July 9th that I am highly anticipating is called The Half King by Melissa Landers. And this book sounded very interesting to me. Apparently, the firstborn of all the noble houses in this book will bear a curse, and the answers to breaking the curse lies in this cult. It's a fantasy novel. It says new adult fantasy novel, so I believe it's for like, you know, 17, 18, like almost adult age, young adults, and then obviously adults. So it's a new adult fantasy novel, and I am really excited to get my hands on this. I just am super excited about a lot of fantasy novels coming out. I have just had such good luck with the new fantasy novels lately, and I just am so excited now. It just seems like all of them are going to be so good, and I have a lot on this list. The next book on my list coming out July 9th is called The Unraveling by Vi Keeland. I hope I'm saying the name right. Usually I'm not. But this is a psychological thriller, and the premise kind of drew my attention. You're following a psychiatrist who is not having a good time in life, and she crosses paths with someone that she knew from her past. It says they have some kind of connection, and he actually ends up coming to her as a patient of hers, and she starts to get a little bit obsessed with him. It sounds like it starts out she's kind of jealous, like, how come he has such a great life and he's doing so good, and you know, I'm struggling here. So it starts out maybe like a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of curiosity, and it blooms into this obsession with him. So I don't know, sounded interesting. It sounded a little dark. It sounded like a good thriller. So that's why this is on my list for July. Also on July 9th, coming out is a book called Lady Killer by Catherine Wood. I do have an ARC of this book from NetGalley. It is a thriller book, and you're following Gia and Abby. When they were kids or teenagers, these two both get through some kind of drama, and they grow up. They're both very successful ladies. They decide to get back together, and they decide to meet up in Greece. When Abby and Gia's brother get to Greece to meet up with Gia, they find that she's missing. So they start going around trying to unravel this mystery of where did she go? What happened to her? It mentions like her husband, you know, and their marriage. So maybe they had some marriage troubles and he did something to her. Who knows? But I just thought that this was a very interesting book. Seems like there's a lot of mysteries to unpack and unfold here as far as the event that they both went through as kids or teenagers, and then the mystery of why Gia is missing now and how it all relates. So it just seemed kind of fun. I haven't read the author before. I'm always willing to try new authors and give them a chance. This was recommended to me since I did like The Next Mrs. Parrish. So I'm open to it, and I'm gonna try to read it as soon as I can.
The next one I'm excited about because I did get a digital ARC. I'm not sure if Amanda has it, but it comes out July 16th, and it's called The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. As you guys know, we had read her debut book. I have it right here, The Wishing Game, and we did get these sprayed edges. I got this for Amanda for her birthday last year, and I absolutely adore this book. It was one of my favorites from 2023. I absolutely loved it, so I'm very much looking forward to her new book. The new one is inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, and it made me realize that I never read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I recently purchased one because I am going to read that one along with another book that I'm reading for a secret vlog that we are going to post in June, I think. I don't think it's going to get pushed to July. But I have a fantasy book from my secret book that we did a Goodreads scroll, and it's very much sounding like it's going to be like a Narnia type novel. And when I realized I never read that, I thought, this is the year of me trying to read the classics that I haven't read. I did read To Kill a Mockingbird, and I decided I'm going to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so I bought a copy of that. But to get back to The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer, so this one, inspired by Chronicles of Narnia, a wild and wondrous novel, a fairy tale for grown-ups. Best friends Jeremy and Rafe went missing in West Virginia forest and mysteriously reappeared 6 years later with no explanation. Another person goes missing and only they can help, since they think she's gone to the same magical realm they had been lost in, and only that they know how to get to this place. So that one sounded really fun, and I feel like it also goes along with the other fantasy book that I'm going to be reading for our
next book coming out July 16th. I'm not going to say too much about, because I know Jen is also highly anticipating this book, so she's going to also talk about it. But I am anticipating The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. I did get an arc from NetGalley of this book, and I'm definitely going to read it before it comes out. I loved The Wishing Game. I thought this book was so cute, and I cannot wait to start reading The Lost Story. I'm trying to wait closer to release date so I can put up an arc review for you guys on it, but Jen and I just loved The Wishing Game. Jen bought me this special sprayed edge edition of the book for my birthday last year, and I couldn't be happier with it. I am so happy to have this book and have read it. It's just a very wholesome read. So I am anticipating nothing less from The Lost Story. I'm expecting the writing to be superb. I'm expecting the story to be profound and deep and very wholesome and just a fun read. So I cannot wait to get into this book.
The next one is also July 16th, and it's called Bright Objects by Ruby Todd. I have a physical arc of this one, and it's a literary thriller, and it's about a young widow trying to get over her husband's death and the justice that she yearns for from a hit and run that he died by. At the same time, there's a comet that is a very rare, once-in-a-lifetime comet is colliding, and there's a local mystic that she ends up connecting with. And I think everything that's going in her life like culminates in these huge monumental events. It really reminded me of a book called The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker. And I love that book so much. And it felt like it could be similar. So I then really wanted to read this one. So it is on my TBR for July.
The next book coming out July 16th is called The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. I have not read Lev Grossman, but he is very famous for his The Magicians trilogy. It's a fantasy series, and this is also a fantasy novel. I don't want to say it's a King Arthur retelling, but the setting is King Arthur has died and there are a few knights of the Round Table that are left, and you're following this young boy that wants to become a knight of the Round Table. And that just seemed super interesting to me. I kind of like reading and going back. I don't necessarily like history books or books about like World War I or II era, those type of historical fiction stories, but I am interested in kind of medieval times and stories around medieval times, or stories like about the Vikings from way back when. So this book sounded interesting to me. I haven't read Lev Grossman, but he is on my radar, so I thought it might be perfect to start reading him with this new book he has coming out.
The next one I also have a physical arc for, and this one is called Things Don't Break on Their Own by Sarah Easter Collins. And the premise feels that it's very similar to a lot of books I have read this past year, but I still really wanted to read it. Plus I have the arc, and it's about two sisters leave to go to school 25 years ago. One gets to the school and the other doesn't. The sister's disappearance defined Willa's life, the one who didn't disappear, obviously. And people think her sister is dead, but her bond with her sister tells her otherwise. I've had a lot of books this year about people going missing, and a lot of those stories ended up with them coming back. And so this one kind of fits into that theme. And sometimes I feel like there's just some themes that go along with what I'm reading, and that just happens to be the one recently.
The next book coming out July 16th is called The Perfect Sister by Stephanie DeCarlos, and I do have an arc of this book. This is a thriller. It's not it doesn't seem like a type of thriller that I would normally pick up. It doesn't seem like it's just super grippy, but it's very summery. It takes place in the Hamptons. I don't usually read a lot of books that take place in the Hamptons, or a lot of thrillers that have that setting. So I thought this might be interesting to break up all the other thrillers I've been reading that have been a little bit more in my comfort zone. In this story, you're following two sisters, and these two sisters have been on two separate paths in life. There's one very successful sister, and then there's a younger sister that kind of looks up to the older sister, has not had the same success, and is on a different path in life, but they always agree to meet every summer. It sounds like they have a very good relationship. They meet for a week every single summer, and then one summer the older sister does not show up. So the younger sister starts investigating around to find out what happened to her older sister, and she meets a family that has a house at the Hamptons, and things just go from there. So I don't know what this book's going to entail, but I just thought, this was recommended to me, and I thought, you know what, this is different than anything that I normally read. Let's break up the kind of dark, grippy, psychological thrillers that I normally read, and try to read something a little summery that takes place in the Hamptons, which is in a setting I'm used to, and kind of mix it up a little bit.
Next one is also on July 16th. It's called What Lies in Darkness by Christina McDonald. I don't have a physical or electronic ARC for this one. And it's about a 16-year-old found injured on the side of the road. Her family went missing after a car crash. Her younger sister Ella's backpack, bloodstained, is found in an abandoned house. Detective Jess Lambert investigates and uncovers dark secrets, putting her on a collision course with her own past. So again, people going missing, and you don't know if they're alive. It is the theme of some of the books that I would say a huge percentage of the books that I've been reading.
The last book I have coming out July 16th is called One Big Happy Family by Jamie Day. And y'all, look at this cover. The colors in this cover are so pretty to me. I just think the cover is gorgeous. I love the little beach chairs, bright and cute. And then in the sky in the background, there's like storm clouds brewing that are like pretty blues. I think this cover is very, very appealing to me. Obviously, it's another thriller. And in this story, there is a property in Maine called The Precipice, and the owner of this property is a guy. He has 3 daughters. He passes away. All 3 daughters show up at this property to try to claim it, and lots of dark secrets come out. I think things get very petty. It mentions murder somewhere along there, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if one of the sisters gets murdered. I don't know if it means someone at the estate gets murdered. I don't know if it means their father was murdered. I have no idea. But that's what I like. I like going into these books, especially thrillers, not having an idea of what's going on, and just go along for the ride. So another thriller I have on my list, I did get the ARC copy of the book. So I've just got a lot of reading to do, y'all. I got a lot of reading to do in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully I'll be able to have time to get all of these ARCs read, because I really just have so many that I want to read.
The next one is called Girls Who Burn by M.K. Pagano, and is also on July 16th. I don't have an ARC as of yet. And this one's a twisty, pulse-pounding, enemies to lover thriller full of secrets, privilege, and murder. And that sentence alone kind of snagged my interest as to what's going on. Addie's sister's found dead at the bottom of a ravine, and Addie thinks she was pushed. She has a suspect in mind, but then he is found dead at the bottom of the same ravine. And that kind of almost gave me Frida McFadden vibes. So I felt like that one might be interesting. Might have to try this out and see what's going on. She tries to recruit another person to help find the killer, but something tells me that person she tries to recruit ends up being involved. It always feels like that's what happens. That's the twist in the end, but who knows? We'll see. Maybe I'm not right, and hopefully if that ends up being right, that'll be a little disappointing. The next one I'm super excited about, and I do have the e-arc. I was gonna try and find the cover of the e-arc and put it on the screen and hold up my tablet, but I feel like that's a lot of effort when I can just have Amanda put it on the screen. But this one is called The Best Lies by David Ellis. And I read a thriller by David Ellis, I think it was earlier this year, and it's called Look Closer. And that one, a lot of people had it was getting recommended a lot. I kept seeing it on Goodreads and on Facebook groups, and I ended up finally reading it, and it was definitely twisty, for sure. I loved that book. This one is also called Fast Paced and Twisty. Leo is diagnosed with being a pathological liar with unthinkable skeletons in his family's closet. I don't even know what that means. He's also a crusading attorney who seeks justice at all costs. When a ruthless drug dealer is found dead and Leo's fingerprints are on the murder weapon, no one believes a word he says. Leo accepts FBI's offer to go undercover. He's walking a tightrope between FBI and the cruel, calculating crime boss, but Leo has more secrets than anyone realizes and a few cards left to play. I feel that it's going to end up being just as good as Look Closer, which I was very, very much a fan of. So I'm looking forward to reading that on the e-arc. And I don't know if I said the date, but that's July 23rd. The next one I don't have an arc for. I think I had put a request in for the electronic arc. So hopefully I will get an arc of this. It is fiction and lit, and it's called Liars. It's by Sarah Manguso. Sometimes I can't read my own writing. And July 23rd, if I haven't said that. And it's about a female artist, and her name is Jane, and she's a writer. She meets John, a filmmaker, and they're happy, and she becomes a mother. So she has like a nice family going, and she has success in her career. But then it all falls apart. Her husband leaves her. It's the story of how everything in her life crumbles, but she's able to rise very successfully out of the ashes. So it's about someone going through it and everything they do to rise again and be successful. So I try and throw some fiction in there. It's getting a lot of great reviews, and I was very much wanting to read about a strong female character that's able to get through something and come out the other side like a phoenix from the ashes. So that one ended up on my list. The next one I have as an electronic arc, and again, I can just have Amanda put it on the screen instead of keep trying to hold up my tablet. And it's called Look in the Mirror by Catherine Steadman. It comes out July 30th. Nina's father dies and leaves her a dream vacation home that he never mentioned. And it's in the British Virgin Islands. It's state of the art. It's all glass and marble, which sounds like it would be gorgeous, but it's really all hard to picture that too, what it looks like. What else was her father hiding, and what's in the basement is what it said. And that made me just very curious. It just seemed a little different than some of the thrillers I've been reading. And, you know, someone's just not missing. So she inherits this dream house, yet there's something in the basement that she's going to find. And I was very curious about that. I do have an e-arc for that, so I'm hoping to read it in July, by July. Who knows? I don't even know which ones I'm going to end up reading by the end of June, and we do have some plans for July. So I haven't come upon those yet, but I'll let you guys know some of what we have planned for vlogs as we go forward.
The next book, the last book too, in July that I'm anticipating coming out is called What Have You Done by Sherry Lapina. And I'm not going to talk a lot about this book. I know Jen's probably highly anticipating this book. Jen has read Sherry Lapina before in the past, and I have not, so I'm going to let her go into the story. But it is a book that I am also anticipating for July.
The next one is from one of my favorite authors who originally got me into psychological thrillers, Sherry Lapina. She has one coming out July 30th. It's called What Have You Done? A knockout domestic suspense novel is how it was described. And teenagers get their kicks telling ghost stories in the old graveyard. The parents trust their kids will come home safe from school. One morning, it will all change as Diana Brewer is found killed in a hayfield found by a farmer. How quickly a town of friendly, familiar faces becomes a town of suspects and a place of fear and paranoia. Looks like just a classic murder psychological thriller from Sherry, and I am definitely signing up. I read her as much as I can. There are a couple I haven't read by her, and eventually I will read them, but I'm looking forward to her latest coming out July 30th. All right, we're almost through July. I'm getting there. I need a break because I am losing my voice. The next one is July 30th, and it's Return to Wyldcliffe Heights by Carol Goodman. The name sounded very familiar, but when I looked up the author, I didn't see anything. There were want to read books by her, but nothing that I had already read. So obviously I have wanted to read her previously. This one is Jane Eyre meets 13th Tale. So that alone made me really want to read. I'm a fan of the classics, a fan of Jane Eyre. I also read 13th Tale, and that one felt like almost like a modern classic, though I didn't like it as much as some of the classics like Jane Eyre. But the two together made me really want, because it's like a modern Gothic tale. A reclusive writer desperate to rewrite the past, Agnes Corey, a junior editor at a small publisher, had been hired by the author Veronica St. Clair to transcribe the sequel to the hit phenomenon, The Secret of Wyldcliffe. It might be Wyldcliffe Heights, I'm not sure. It is a Jane Eyre-esque book which coincided with a terrible fire that blinded and scarred her. Startling connections are found out to Agnes' life during the process. So she's finding things out as she's transcribing this sequel to this big book. It'd be as if she was transcribing Charlotte Bronte and found out some very big secrets as she was trying to transcribe a new book. And that really hooked me. I want to read that. The next one is by an author I have read before. I believe the book is called Reconstructing Amelia. It's a thriller. The author's Kimberly McCreight. And this new one is called Like Mother, Like Daughter. It's coming out July 30th. A daughter races to uncover her mother's secret life in the wake of her disappearance in this thriller. And again, there's another disappearance. But I did really like Reconstructing Amelia. I thought it was well done, and I definitely want to check out another book by Kimberly McCreight. All right, we have another July 30th book, and don't be too shocked, but this is a nonfiction one. It's the only nonfiction one on the list. It's like I have to get at least one nonfiction one in a year. This one is called The Future Was Now, Mad Men, Mavericks, and the Epic Sci-Fi Summer of 1982 by Chris Nashawati. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. It's the rollicking history of 1980s cinema, how 8 legendary sci-fi films changed Hollywood forever. E.T., Tron, Star Trek Wrath of Khan, Conan the Barbarian, Blade Runner, Poltergeist, The Thing, Mad Max were released 6 weeks between each other in the summer of 1982. And I'm a huge movie buff, especially 1980s movies. I am just a huge fan. Star Wars is, obviously I'm a huge Star Wars geek, Star Wars nerd, whatever you want to call. And there are other movies not even listed on here, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and we're in the 80s. So many movies. I mean, there's so many movies that I've seen and loved. And this one sounded, especially about that one summer, sounded very, very interesting. And so I'm looking forward to putting a nonfiction on my TBR.
The first book in August that I want to talk about, and y'all, I did say in the beginning that there were only 3 books in August, but I was wrong. I was wrong. I found more in my spreadsheet. So I have several books in August that I want to talk about. The first book is called A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. This author, I read What Moves the Dead and I did not like it. But this author is known for some really good books. I found the writing in What Moves the Dead okay. I just did not like the story. And What Moves the Dead was a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher. So I'm not sure if maybe the story just didn't jive with me. It was very different than anything I had read, but I just didn't really enjoy my time reading it. But I just really want to give this author another chance. I'm not going to write her off just because I didn't like the one book. And this seems to be an original story, a fantasy story that she's telling. And I did get an ARC from Edelweiss for Sorceress Comes to Call, and I really want to start reading this. Probably I'll read it in August, but you're following Cordelia, and Cordelia is the daughter of an evil sorceress, and she is just very controlled, very abused, not allowed to have friends, has a very mean mother. And one day, her and her mother go to live with a squire. And Cordelia knows that the squire is going to be her mom's next victims, but she's starting to like her time there. She's starting to feel at home and grow a bond with this couple. So I think she's going to try to convince her mom or stop her mom from harming this couple that they live with. So I just thought that this was a very fun story. I like the idea of the story. I liked the writing in What Moves the Dead. Again, my issue was just the story I didn't care for. So I'm hoping that T. Kingfisher will win me over with this book, and I will let you guys, of course, know what I think once I read it.
This one is called A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. I have yet to read T. Kingfisher, and I've seen a lot of very weird books by T. Kingfisher that have, drawn my interest, but I have yet to try any of them. So this is a dark retelling of the Brother Grimm's Goose Girl, rife with secrets, murder, and forbidden magic. And I love old fairy tales, Grimm fairy tales. They're so dark. They're nothing like what they get Disneyfied for TV or for movies. And this one goes on to say, after a suspicious death in their small town, Cornelia's mother insists they leave in the middle of the night. They flee to a remote country manor, and Cordelia's mother intends to lure the squire into marriage. The squire's sister, Hester, intends to save her brother and Cordelia from what she sees as a wicked witch. So that one definitely, if it has the Brothers Grimm and it's a retelling, I really feel like I want to read that. That just sounds very interesting to me.
The next book coming out on August 6th, I am really excited for. It's called Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer, and I absolutely loved the first book in this series. This is the second book of a trilogy. I think it's gonna be a trilogy, and I absolutely loved it. In this book, you're still continuing the story of Evie and the villain, and they're still working together. And in this story, something has happened to the magic in the land. And with the crumbling of the magic system, the villain's lair has been vulnerable to attacks from their enemy, who is the king. In the first book, there were lots of very funny parts. I love the dynamic between these two characters. They really didn't start their love relationship until the very end of Assistant to the Villain. So I really can't wait to see what Apprentice to the Villain brings as far as their love journey, as far as them fighting the king. It just is a very whimsical world, and I just love the humor in the books, and I cannot wait for this one to come out.
This one's called The Rule of Three by Sam Ripley. And at first this one kind of sounded like it might be a YA thriller, but then when I read the description, it actually sounds more of like a horror, so it's probably not YA. The Whisper Man meets the paranoia of Blair Witch Project. When I first saw the Blair Witch Project, and I saw it in the theater, early 2000s, that movie was just disturbing to me the way it ended. And it was a little strange throughout, and it really says itself, like it shows itself to be as if it's really a documentary that these three people are doing in the woods. It just got creepier and creepier and creepier, and I feel it may have triggered my love of the horror genre, to be honest. So this one is a suspense thriller, though it really sounds like it might be close to horror, about urban legend coming true. Bad things happen in threes and the curse is coming for me. Reminds me of The Ring, too. So I added that to my list. It's creepy enough that obviously I'm going to be drawn to it.
The next book coming out on August 6th that I'm really excited about is called The Chamber by Will Dean. And this is what the cover looks like. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this book because I know Jen is also anticipating this book coming out. But y'all, I will read anything that Will Dean writes. I have loved all the books of his that I have read, and I'm a big fan of his. I follow his YouTube channel. If y'all don't know, he does have a YouTube channel. I will put it in the description below if you're interested in following. But I'm just a fan, and I can't wait for this book to be released. I did get an ARC, so I think Jen and I are probably going to try to buddy read this together and or for part of a vlog. So stay tuned for that.
Next one I know Amanda wants to do together for sure, so I am assuming we might do it in July, maybe. Again, it's on August 6th, and it's The Chamber by Will Dean. I had read the crazy book by him last summer, I think it was, and that one was called The Last One. It was not what I was expecting, and I just felt so on a ride with that book, and it just was a very different book, and it's one of those books you can't really talk too much about because there's a twist early on in the book and you don't want to ruin that for anybody. But I would highly suggest The Last One by Will Dean. It's really good. So I'm very excited about The Chamber coming out August 6th. Again, it's a locked room thriller, and it's probably why Amanda wants to read it. And it takes place in a hyperbaric chamber. It's a gripping thriller about 4 days in survival, or will paranoia, exhaustion, suspicion, and pressure destroy them? And I don't know much about it, but just like the previous book, other than that, I'm willing to just go into it and see what happens. And I have a feeling I might really like it since I loved the last one.
The last book on my radar for August 6th is called House of Glass by Sarah Buchanan. And this author is probably most widely known for The Golden Couple, which I have not read, but I was fortunate enough to get a physical ARC copy of this book. And I just want to read a little bit on the back about what it says. There's just a very short blurb that will summarize what the book is about a lot better than what I can tell you. A young nanny who plunges to her death, or was she pushed? A 9-year-old girl who collects sharp objects and refuses to speak. A lawyer whose job it is to uncover who the family is a victim and who is a murderer. But how can you find out the truth when everyone here is lying? This just sounded very mind trippy, very psychological, twisty, and I am really interested to read this book. I'm so happy I got a physical copy of this ARC, and it's coming out August 6th, so I will probably be reading it sometime in July.
The next one ended up on my list with August 6th again, called Only the Guilty Survive by Kate Robards, because it had the tagline for fans of Riley Sager and Lisa Joel. I tried Lisa Joel for the first time, and I absolutely loved the book that I read. I want to read more by her, and the one I read by her was None of This Is True. And then Riley Sager, obviously, we just posted a vlog with Riley Sager for his newest called Middle of the Night, and my first one I read by him last year, one of my favorite books of the year, and of course I'm forgetting the name of that one. But when it said that, I thought, okay, this might be one I have to try because I just tried them and I absolutely love them. This one is about a podcaster digs into connections between a cult, mass suicide, and the murder of a local beauty queen. Twisty psychological thriller about true crime culture. And I did read Listen for the Lie, and that one was about a podcaster as well. And Lisa Joel, actually, the one I read by her last year is about a podcaster. And I joked in one of the videos, it seemed like a lot of books are taken on the podcaster. There was even a Lisa Unger book, Christmas Presents, that had a podcast in it. And I know podcasts are very, very popular right now, so it makes sense that they're ending up as plots for books. But that one sounded interesting, so it made it to the list.
Y'all, I lied. There's another book on August 6th coming out. I'm sorry. On August 6th, also coming out, is called Blood Like Mine by Stuart Neville. And this book sounded really interesting to me. It takes place in December in Colorado, so it's a completely opposite setting of what we're feeling now in the United States, which is summer. But I thought it'd be a nice change of pace. And you're following Rebecca and her daughter, whose name is Moonflower, which that's interesting, isn't it? But Rebecca and Moonflower are kind of on the run. They hit a snowbank in their car and they refuse help from people that come to help them. They're trying to just stay off the radar for whatever reason. There's something with Moonflower, like in her past, that has caused an issue, and they're just trying to not draw any attention to themselves. And somehow their paths cross with a FBI agent, and this FBI agent is tracking down a serial killer that very gruesomely kills his victims and drains their blood. So somehow these paths cross, and I don't know what happens. That's all I know. That's all I want to know. But that sounded interesting enough to me that I thought this would be a great read, and I am anticipating it coming out in August.
The next one is also August 6th. It's a popular date. The Last Time We Met by Anna Walgren. 6 former friends are forced to relive their deadly past in this psychologically charged and suspenseful novel that's locked room mystery, perfect for fans of Ruth Ware and Lucy Foley. Now, I haven't read enough Ruth Ware. I feel that I'm a fan of hers. I read The It Girl, and I actually didn't really like that one. And I haven't read her newest one called The Perfect Couple. And Lucy Foley, I have not tried yet. I don't know if this is definitely going to be for me, but I put it on the list just in case. If I check it out when it comes out, I might like it, because I don't have an arc for this one either. The last time they all had dinner together, someone ended up dead. When they arrive for dinner, there's a box by their plate. Inside are the secrets they've been hiding all these years, and the door to get out is locked on the outside. And the premise of that just sounded almost like a really good movie. I almost feel like I've seen a movie like this, but I don't know if it's just sounding familiar. And it says nobody's leaving this dinner table until the truth comes out. So it sounds interesting. I know Amanda is a locked room fan. She loves those type of novels. So we may want to do a vlog on that one. It comes out August 6th, and who knows, maybe we'll get a arc for that. Maybe we'll get lucky. The next one is also August 6th. It's called The Unmothers by Leslie Anderson, and I do have an electronic e-arc for this one. And it's horror. And it's emotionally raw and propulsive folk horror mystery. A journalist goes to a small town and unravels a dark secret that the women have been keeping for generations. She is sent to dig into a ridiculous rumor. A horse has given birth to a happy, healthy human boy. It sounds crazy. When 2 horribly mangled bodies are discovered in a field, one a horse and one a human, she realizes there is definitely a story here. And it just sounds almost ridiculous, but it also reminds me, I have to send this one. My one friend really likes the kind of outlandish, really strange books, and I need to send that to her, but that one sounded interesting. Sometimes it gets too crazy. I can't do when it goes way off the trail. I'm willing to check it out and see what that's like. Sounds different for sure. Again, the next one I am super excited about, and it's called After Oz by Gordon McAlpine. August 6th again, so we're still not off of August 6th. And I do have an electronic arc. And I'm sure you guys can guess with the title After Oz that it's in the Wizard of Oz family. I also realized of course I've seen the movie a million zillion times, but I have never read the actual book by L.M. Baum. So I was planning on reading The Wizard of Oz and then this one right after, because this one it's an adult version, obviously. It's not a kid's book. It's empowering and timely retelling of The Wizard of Oz, where one little girl is forced to face head-on the prejudices of the Midwest in Kansas 1896. After a tornado destroys the Gale family farm, 11-year-old Dorothy goes missing. She reappears 4 days later talking of a fantastical land, and she is regarded as delusional. When a local spinster is found dead and seems to be close to the description of the Wicked Witch, they think maybe Dorothy killed her. She is then sentenced to Topeka Insane Asylum, and a psychologist interviews Dorothy, trying to figure out what the truth is. And I got the sense that she might believe Dorothy, and they try and maybe find Oz or figure out what happened with her going to Oz or what's going on. I am very, very excited about it. It seems really interesting. I am a fan of the movie, and I also want to see how different the original book is. And I think it's a series of books. I'm not going to read all of them, I don't think, unless I get completely sucked into that world. But I really thought reading those two together might be really interesting. I am kind of excited about that.
Okay, y'all. This next book is coming on August 13th. And it is a book that I first heard about way back in January, and I have been anticipating it this whole time. I have been checking NetGalley and Edelweiss for them offering art copies, and I was able to snag an art copy of it from NetGalley, and that's called Society of Lies by Lauren Ling Brown. So in this book, you're following Maya, and Maya graduated from Princeton, I believe, some Ivy League school, and she is headed back to school for a reunion, but also in the same weekend, her little sister is also graduating. So she's really excited about going back, reuniting with some of her classmates, and then attending her sister's graduation. But her sister ends up dead, and there's a lot of mystery around the death, and Maya starts kind of investigating and asking questions and digging deep into the mysteries around her sister's death. And there's a lot of things she discovers about her sister. She had joined a secret society, for one, which is super interesting, and I just thought this book sounded so good. I am always interested in like books, especially thrillers that revolve around mysterious institutes, mysterious schools, mysterious societies, those kind of hidden topics that no one really knows a lot about. But it's always fun to just, think, guess, assume, whatever you call it. And I'm always interested in books that kind of dig into that topic because I just find it kind of fascinating. So I'm really excited about this book. I'm so happy that I was able to get this copy. And I think you all should put it on your radar for when it comes out.
The next one I do have an electronic ARC for, so I am looking forward to reading this one. It comes out August 13th. I Need You to Read This by Jessa Maxwell. It's clever, atmospheric, and creepy, which are all good terms for a book that I would pick up and be interested in. An advice columnist searches for answers about her predecessor's murder. Alex starts her own investigation, and her past dark secrets also come haunting her. So the cover is actually the one that really grabbed me. I saw it and I put in for electronic ARC. I asked for a request and I got it. So I'm looking forward to reading that one.
The final book I have for August 13th is another thriller, and it's called Glass Houses. And I was obviously able to get a physical copy of this, and I'm just going to read the little paragraph on the back. It says, a recently acquired tech startup goes on a celebratory trip but must make an emergency landing on a private island featuring only one building, a mysterious black glass mansion. At first, it's very hard to get in, but then it's very hard to get out. I don't know, that sounded very interesting to me. I love reading these new books about like business startups, especially tech startups, and their technology and their quirky characters. And then this mysterious black glass house. It's kind of giving me the vibe of that movie 13 Ghosts, where these people get trapped inside of a house and it's kind of like a big puzzle and they're trapped with these evil spirits. So I don't know, it's just giving me those vibes, and I thought it would be super interesting to follow along this cast of characters from this tech startup and how they get into and then out of this mysterious glass mansion.
The next one I have on here, but I actually finished it and I just recorded a ARC review for Amanda. I don't know when she might post that, but it comes out on August 20th. It's called By Any Other Name by Jodi Picoult. I did look up how to say her name, and there's a couple of previous videos where I mispronounced it and said Picoult. But she was on TikTok and she corrected and said her name is Jodi Picoult. This one is about two women centuries apart. Both of them feel like their voices aren't being heard as women. In 1500s, the woman is actually based on a real woman. Her name is Amelia Bassano, and she was thought to be the author of some of Shakespeare's plays. there's a school of thought that William Shakespeare didn't really write all of his plays, and there's a lot of evidence pointing to this. And Jodi Picoult has become convinced not only did he not write any of his plays, but that Amelia Bassano is the author of many of his plays. So current day in this book is Melina, I think her name is, Melina Green, and she's a playwright current day, and she wants to submit a play that she wrote on her ancestor, Amelia Bassano. And she doesn't feel she doesn't feel she's being appreciated because she's a woman. And whoever's judging this, she had an interaction with years prior that this man put her down and didn't think she was a good writer. And so she's intimidated by knowing he's going to be the one judging it, and she doesn't submit it. But it's also like a comedy of errors a la Shakespeare, because her play does get submitted by her best friend, and he changes her name to make it look like it's male, and let the comedy ensue. But I really loved this book. I gave it 4 stars, and I am going to be doing an ARC review that you guys can see more of my thoughts on it there too.
All right, y'all. You've made it to the end. My final book for this video is coming out August 27th. It is a fantasy book, and it has dragons. It is called Between Dragons and Their Wrath by Devin Matson. It's coming out August 27th, if I didn't say that already. But this story sounded so fun. First of all, it has dragons in it. I'm probably gonna give it a try, not gonna lie. But you're following these 3 characters that live very separate lives, and they're kind of forced together because the world that they live in is under attack. There's people fighting for power. There's lots of politics involved, and these 3 are just trying to survive in this very messy, very violent world. And I just can't wait to read it. That's really all that I know. I know I see that with a lot of my books, but I just thought that this sounded very interesting. This book is only coming out in paperback. It's not going to be hardcover. It is the first book of a new series called the Shattered Kingdom series. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy, if it's going to be duology, if it's going to be several books, 4 or 5 books. I don't know, but it is the first book of a series, and y'all know I love me a fantasy series, so that's all that I need to know. Dragons, fantasy series. Sounds like a brutal world. You've got a found family aspect of these 3 kids coming together to just fight their way through it and make a difference. And that sounds like a great time to me.
The last 2 I have physical ARCs for, and at first I didn't have them on my list, and it happens to be the end of August. Both of them are August 27th, but I just got these in the mail. So the first one is Red River Road by Anne Downs. I haven't read anything by Anne Downs, but she is known for psychological thrillers. And the quote by Sally Hepworth, who I adore. I love Sally Hepworth's books. She said, "Utterly addictive and deliciously dark, this is Downs' best book yet." That alone grabbed me. I would have read it just by that comment. And just so you guys know, Katie's younger sister, Phoebe, vanishes. So again, it's another person gone missing. And the sister goes to find her. She ends up running into someone named Beth, who she decides she's going to trust to help find, but then there are dark secrets that emerge. So I am excited about reading that. And then the other one on August 27th is called The Madness by Dawn Kurtagich. And Mina Murray gets an email from her estranged best friend Lucy, and she goes to find out more, leaving her psychiatric practice. And there are terrible ancient truths and an evil beyond comprehension. And Mina attempts to stop the cycle. And a lot of that description didn't really make sense. I didn't know what that meant, but it's okay. I don't always need to know everything about a book. I got this in the mail. It has a really creepy cover. I feel like I'm going to give it a shot. I don't feel like descriptions always are really do a book justice, I guess is what I want to say. And sometimes I feel we don't give a book the chance because it's not really described correctly. And when I read what it was, I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to read it because it looks like it might be good. Yes, I judged a book by its cover. We made it through all 26, I think I said I had, of my list. I am looking forward to so many of these. I had mentioned earlier that some of them me and Amanda were going to do together, but I just realized that the ones that I was referring to, the pub dates don't come out in July and August. They actually come out further down the line in October. So we are going to be doing a summer ween episode where we're reading some dark books, some horror/thrillers by Jason Rekulak, which is a favorite of mine. He did Hidden Pictures, and we got access to the last one at the wedding. And J.H. Markert, who has written several that we love, has a new one coming out. One is called Sleep Tight. I had loved The Nightmare Man by him, and I also read Mr. Lullaby, which I wasn't as much of a fan of, but The Nightmare Man was just so good. I think sometimes it's hard to measure up when you really love a first novel, but the new one has a completely creepy cover on it. It's called Sleep Tight. And then we have one of my favorite authors, Alice Feeney. I have access to her new book, and it doesn't even come out until January of next year. I don't know if Amanda got access to it yet. I can't remember. I think she said she won it. She's just waiting for it to come in the mail. Mine is an electronic ARC, and we're going to do all three of those in one summer ween episode that you can look forward to in July. I'm super excited about all three of those. I can't wait to read them. Thank you so much for watching our most anticipated. I feel of all the videos we do, I always end up loving and looking forward to these because I love researching and seeing what's coming out and then sharing them with you. Is there anything that you guys feel we should have included that maybe we just don't know about? I did take some off my list because the list was very long. And I was trying to whittle it down to what I am really going to read, but you never know. I am a mood reader. I may end up picking up something I didn't even put on the list. Please leave in the comments anything that you feel we would enjoy. I always love getting recommendations. Thanks for watching, and until next time.